Hi, Michelle.
Hi, Noam.
And thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
Once again, everybody, I'm here with Michelle LeBaron from the University of British Columbia's Faculty of Law. And Michelle, amongst many, many other things, is also one of the most, if not the most, creative people I know. So it should not come as any surprise that when we're discussing this topic of preparation for negotiation and negotiation in the room, real nuts and bolts of practice, the topic of creativity came up, and the moment it got tossed in the room, I said, yeah, I want to get me some of that for the participants in this course and for myself as well. So let's call that an opening thing and go.
Thank you. Well, to me, creativity is something that runs all through negotiation, from
Sure.
preparation to follow-up, and of course, in the negotiation itself. And as I was thinking about this topic some more, thinking that we would talk about it today, Noam, I was thinking, what really is creativity? And I think we have to begin with that.
Yeah.
And one of the definitions I like the most of creativity is that creativity is making something new of what already exists.
Uh-huh.
So creativity is not invention,
Right.
it's not necessarily innovation, and in that sense, it matches so well with negotiation,
Right.
because negotiation also is making something new of what already exists.
Right.
You
Whether
know,
it includes a relationship, it includes
Yes.
some existing resources.
Exactly.
But nobody's out there printing money to make this easier.
No, and we talk sometimes in negotiation about expanding the pie, thinking of ways to bring other resources in. Sometimes we can,
Right.
sometimes we can't.
Right.
Or there are ways where our choices are limited, and still creativity is important. And so I wanted to share just a couple of pieces of my thinking about creativity in relation to preparation and actual negotiation.
Fantastic.
That are useful.
Okay.
So, in negotiation, teaching about negotiation, we often talk about brainstorming. When you're negotiating, it's really important to brainstorm a wide range of options. That's about the only way, in my experience, we often talk about creativity at all.
I've become so frustrated with that limited approach that I did not even mention brainstorming this far. There's that process in which we put out all the ideas that we can,
Yes.
and we don't judge them,
No.
and then we think about them all together at the end of a process in a joint session. It's not a bad idea,
No.
but it can't be the only way.
It can't be the only way. And so for me, going
Yeah.
back first to preparation,
Right.
there's a question of how can I prepare myself to negotiate in the most creative way that I can? And I have really some surprising news about that. At least I think all of you may be surprised. I find it surprising
I'm ready.
when I
Go.
think back, which is I can prepare myself to be creative in negotiation by breaking out of my usual mode of doing things. So,
Okay.
if I usually sleep on one side of the bed, I switch sides. If I usually part my hair on one side, I part it on the other. If I usually have milk in my coffee, I have it black. Now, some of these things you may say, oh, I don't like black coffee, so you wouldn't want to do it. However, the point is, switch it up. We become such creatures of habit, and we get these cognitive habits going, that then we come into negotiation and we're on some sort of autopilot.
Right.
And in my experience, the way to get out of autopilot is to switch it up. Do things unusual for myself. Wear an unusual outfit. Take an unusual route to the place where the negotiation is taking place. Don't take my usual route. Walk instead of drive. Run instead of cycle.
You make me want to go out and recreate all the negotiations I've ever negotiated on autopilot, which are so many. I mean, everything I know about brain science, which is about this much, admittedly,
Same.
it says exactly that. It says
Exactly.
that the
Yeah.
moment you switch up something, a path diverges,
Exactly.
and newness happens, whatever that is.
Newness happens. And we know this also if you study great inventions. And negotiation is somehow about
Yes,
inventing
inventing.
a solution, an outcome that works for
Yeah.
both parties.
It's not just a metaphor.
It's not just a metaphor,
Right.
it's a real thing.
Yeah.
That very, very many things were invented when the inventor or inventors were focused and really working hard on it, and then they went for a walk.
Right. A fly disturbed them.
A fly disturbed
fell
them.
on their head.
Some
Yes.
accident
Yes.
happened,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Something they
Yeah.
didn't anticipate or
Yeah.
plan. And so for me, that extends into a negotiation session itself. If you and I are problem solving and it's not working, do something else.
Uh-huh.
You know, have a discussion about the weather,
Yeah.
or focus on a different aspect of the problem, or have a snack.
Yeah.
So that changing modes is useful. If we're looking at something, let's stop and just close our eyes and listen to each other talk. If we're listening to each other with our eyes closed, let's actually now go for a walk and continue being silent with each other and letting our own thoughts kind of bubble on it. Because actually some of the research shows that people have their best conversations with each other when they're not sitting frontally engaging. Kind of like this,
Kind of like
right?
this, so that's a
But
pretty
in
good conversation.
fact, indeed, that they're in a car together driving where they're
Yeah.
not looking at each
Right.
other. Or they're walking together down the road, they're not
Right.
looking at each other, because it gives us some spaciousness. So creativity needs spaciousness, and it needs us to be flexible about changing modes.
So let me bring that into a slightly different.
Please.
I'm a little wary of negotiation advice that's given to both parties at once, as
Indeed.
like when we say negotiators should go for a walk together, because it might be that you know that, but I don't, and if you say let's go for a walk together, I might think you're crazy, or you're worried that I might think you're crazy, even though I won't. But what are some things that you can do on your own that don't involve, let's say, asking me to close my eyes and, treasure the sound of your voice? What are things that you can do on your own that will shift you into creativity? Even if at the other party to the negotiation, I'm going on doing my thing, how can you make that shift for one party, for you on your own?
Sometimes it's as simple as taking a break.
Yeah.
Saying, right now I need a break,
Yeah.
Noam. And there we are. I'm
Right.
breaking a
Yeah.
pattern that I feel is not productive for myself or for both of us.
Right.
Another thing that I can do is to say, I hope you don't mind, but I just need to get up and stretch for a moment. So I'm physically breaking set for myself,
Right.
without asking you to do anything,
Right.
except to indulge me getting up and stretching my back, right? Or perhaps I habitually sit with my left leg crossed over my right.
Right.
I cross them the other way.
Mhm.
So I do things which are always based in my body,
Yes.
that in some way cue my mind
Right.
that this is not business as usual. It's time for me to just shake it up a little bit. And that can be as simple as
Yes.
just shifting in my chair, just realizing, I'm slouching right now.
Yeah.
What happens if I sit and look at this from a different place? I'm
Yeah.
just saying that to myself, right? I'm not saying it to the other person. And that by itself changes it for me. Or I can do an internal kind of body inventory where I say, wow, I'm having trouble. I'm just saying this again to myself. I'm having trouble concentrating right now. I find my mind keeps going off in all these different directions. I'm really not listening to you very effectively. Where am I feeling that in my body? And then I realize, whoa, I've got a knot in my stomach.
I usually feel that exactly in my shoulders.
Okay.
I know that it's in my shoulders. Yes.
And so knowing that, I allow, even in the course of conversation, we do this all the time, right? We come and go, actually. I allow my breath, my attention to go to taking my breath to those stiff shoulders or that knot in my stomach. And I just say to myself, I'm going to do this in a way that helps me come with more gentleness to myself,
Yes.
to wherever I'm feeling that harshness, because the tension in the shoulders and not in the stomach, they're harsh.
Right.
Ooh, I want to bring some softness to that. And as I do, I start talking with you in a way which is less harsh.
Mhm.
And that starts to affect the course of negotiation, because our negotiation is always about relationship.
Well, and also because you've also just changed something in a tangible and physical way, by
Yes.
voice, by looking, by something. in what the other is experiencing. So you've not only initiated that change exactly where you knew it should be, in your stomach or in my shoulders,
Yeah.
but you've also tweaked something that's going on with the other person, and
Yes.
who knows where that might ripple to. Again, bringing that back to creativity and freeing his or her mind into dancing another dance.
Because we do know that negotiation is a dance, and that when I start dancing in a particular way, if we're dancing together, it affects you and whatever dance you do. So I think that's exactly right, Noam.
This sounds like extremely helpful, not just an extremely helpful way to think about things, but extremely helpful practical advice for right before the room and right in the room.
And if I can say one more thing, I would say that
Always.
creativity is not something other people have. All of us have creative capacity,
Okay.
and creative capacity which is then really important in negotiation. And so I really reject this thing that I will often hear from my students.
Okay.
I'm
So
not
sometimes from me.
creative.
Yeah, right. Okay.
I'm not creative. Other people are creative. Artists are creative.
Right.
I'm not creative.
Yeah.
That is simply not true,
Right.
particularly if you accept the definition. Creativity is making something new
Out
with
of
what
what
you
you already
already have. And so all of us have that
Yes.
creative genius within us, and through physical means
Yeah.
can use it in negotiation to improve our own experience of negotiation and our own interaction with others.
Thank you so much, Michelle.
My pleasure, Noam.